Hello, I'm Daniel Harm, speaking on behalf of a coalition of individuals, groups, and organizations who over the last 5 years have been advocating for the permanent conservation of the Upper Rutsatz Forest. We will first go into the financial mechanisms we successfully passed through the legislature to make this a win-win-win situation for Whatcom County, the DNR, the Mount Baker School District, and for the health and integrity of the Nooksack watershed, with all the biodiversity, wildlife, and human needs it supports. Then we will dive into maps, survey data, and footage of Upper Rutsatz to give you an in-depth tour of this rare, high conservation value forest. For the last 3 years, our coalition has been working directly with the legislature to secure tens of millions of dollars to permanently protect high conservation value, structurally complex, carbon-dense forest. This year, WASAC, DNR, and numerous conservation organizations secured $10 million designated for conserving older, structurally complex forest. This year, counties can provide DNR with input regarding parcels they would like to see nominated. The Upper Rutsatz Forest is in a league of its own and is the ideal forest to receive conservation status. An exciting addition to this year's funding is the Cash for County Clause, which will allow county governments and their junior taxing districts like Mount Baker School District to receive cash up front from this transaction. In our fact sheet for all counties, we use Upper Rutsatz as an example. You can go over this fact sheet in more detail to review the overall timeline and to see how valuation and the Cash for County option works. The DNR has not yet determined the exact valuation per acre of Upper Rutsatz. Based on similar recent sales, our best guess is that it falls somewhere between $25,000 to $30,000 per acre. If it is valued at $28,000 per acre or more, then the Mount Baker School District will break even and possibly receive even more revenue to conserve Upper Rutsatz than the estimated value of logging the pause sale in 2022. And these funds would become available for use by the district in the short term rather than waiting to see when, if ever, the sale would be logged in the future. In addition to cash for counties, the county would also receive double the acreage in replacement trust lands that the DNR would purchase from private timber to be managed as working forest that generate revenue on behalf of the county. Thus, the win-win-win is Whatcom County would get to conserve an incredibly high conservation value forest, would receive double the amount of acreage in replacement lands to maintain revenue for beneficiaries, and would receive cash up front for the Mount Baker School District. Now, let's dive into Upper Rutsatz. We are now going to explore maps before checking out the canopy and forest floor of Upper Rutsatz. Let's first orient ourselves here on Google Earth. Here is beautiful Bellingham Bay, gorgeous Mount Baker, Colshan, and the phenomenal Twin Sisters, Red Mountain, and here in the center is Upper Rutsatz. Upper Rutsatz lies in the center of the confluence of all three Nooksack rivers. We have the Middle Fork Nooksack originating from the Deming Glacier, which goes right by the Upper Rutsatz Forest. Then we have the North Fork originating out of the Nooksack Cirque, which connects right here. This is the confluence of the North Fork and the Middle Fork. Then we have the South Fork originating off the backside of the Twin Sisters, Red Mountain. It's an incredibly important watershed, and you can see how intensely managed it is. There's not a lot of contiguous forest canopy until you get way out here. Natural, lowland older forests like Upper Rutsatz in this area of the watershed are very, very rare. Zooming in, here is Rutsatz Road. Here's the Nooksack Reservation, which is part of this entire Rutsatz community. Here are our ground truthing maps where there is a lot going on. We've spent an incredible amount of time on the ground surveying this entire area to find exactly where the older, structurally complex forest sections are. In conjunction with our ground truthing maps, we worked with a DNR database, which is publicly accessible and very robust. Here are earlier drafts, and this is our current working draft for proposed conservation. The green areas are distinctly older, structurally complex forests that also contain significant amounts of enormous old-growth structures. The red boundaries demarcate the original sale. You can see that there are sections that we did not include, because they are younger plantation stands. In this aerial shot, you can see this exact location's clear boundary between older natural regen and younger plantation. All these pinkish colors are DNR deferred areas, a combination of riparian management zones, unstable slopes, conservation areas for wildlife habitat, etc. This lower 61-acre section is State Forest Board transfer land. Up here, the 78 acres is WSU Scientific School land. In total, the green area is the 139 acres we are proposing to be conserved with the 2025 legislative funds. To correlate this to aerial footage, this is Unit 1, the upper and lower portion, and this dome is Unit 2 right here. If we go back and reference this map, this is Unit 1 right here, and this is Unit 2 of the original sale. And now we're looking at the other side of the hill. This is older forest right here. This is older forest right here. And if we keep on going around right here, this is older forest that we have included. On the map, this is the other side of the hill we ground truthed to make contiguous blocks of older forest. Here's the Upper Rutsatz community, with the last home directly kitty-corner to the lower portion of Unit 1. This shot is really great at showing how important this forest is for the watershed and as our community's primary source of drinking water. All our heavy rains filter through this gorge and then follow these drainage contours all the way down to where we live. This whole neighborhood right here is a seasonal wetland. This hydrologic system is how we get our drinking water. The South Fork here has been stark in the summer, as well as the Middle Fork. We've been getting intense high flows in the winter. This is right next to our community. The floods that happened here in 2021 are a watershed reality. Management styles that leave less vegetation on the landscape, like clear-cutting and high-intensity VRH, have a direct correlation with low flows in the summer. Older, diverse forests are hydrologically mature, so they use water more efficiently than younger forests, and their significant water storage capacity allows them to regulate the flow of water seasonally. Forested canopies retain moisture and create shade. On a hot summer day, it can be over 100 degrees in a parking lot, yet if you are in a contiguous, older natural forest, it can be in the high 60s and low 70s, 20, 30, 40 degrees cooler. Another major benefit of older natural forests is that they are crucial for salmon habitat. As water flows through older hydrologically mature forests, the water is cooled, creating lower stream temperatures necessary for the survival of many of our salmonoids, which are listed on the endangered species list, critically at risk of going extinct. This is footage from a video about the 2025 legislative funds. A lot of work went into the Proviso, and we are proud that our collective work paid off, especially with the Cash for Counties clause. This footage shows the structural complexity on the ground of the forest. You can see these really large trees. Here's one right here. There's an enormous cedar behind me, an enormous Doug fir right here. All this downed wood is such incredible habitat. Often quoted is a misnomer that older trees are worthless because they're about to die. The reason these forests exist is because these dead trees feed the forest. The downed wood is what has created these incredible forests over the centuries, providing habitat, nutrients, carbon storage, and water storage. The lush forest floor and all the downed wood retains water, which is another reason why these older forests are fire resilient. Here's a shot of a nearby plantation to show for contrast. This is the crown of the largest tree in the forest, which is this tree right here, an incredible 101-inch diameter at breast height, or DBH, equivalent to 26.5 feet in circumference, or about 8.5 feet in diameter. An absolute phenomenal tree. This is the tallest tree in the forest, which is a 300-foot tall tree. This watershed is capable of producing the tallest trees in the world. The tallest tree that ever lived, the 465-foot tall Nooksack giant, grew here until it was cut down in 1896. If still alive today, the Nooksack giant could have lived for another 400 years or more. Here's footage of the forest in the mist. It is really cool to see how closely correlated canopy cover is with precipitation formation and water vapor. Before we explore the canopy further, let's look at tree data. In the upper portion of Unit 1, our community conducted a survey of the largest trees. Our goal was to measure 300 trees where much of the old growth exists. We geotagged each individual tree. For example, the largest tree is right here. So this is T38 Douglas fir 101-inch DBH, which was protected in the original timber sale. The columns to the left is the data for all 300 trees. Anything marked as red are compiled into these sections, which are alarm bells, with cedars being a primary concern. In our survey plot, we found 47 large, unprotected cedars that had an average DBH of 60 inches. In the original timber sale, none of these enormous cedars were marked as protected leaf trees. We can go back to our images. 84-inch DBH, 95-inch DBH, 70-inch DBH, and then 91-inch diameter at breast height. We have photos like this for all 300 trees. This is a beautiful shot that shows the structural diversity of the forest. You can see that it is primarily cedar here, which again correlates with these alarming outliers of large unprotected cedars. The Nooksack tribe is very much highlighting the need for cedar conservation, as documented in their 2017 Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment. This aspect is a cool, moist, northeast-facing slope, prime habitat for cedar conservation. And now looking towards the sisters, we have an old-growth structure. This is a beautiful example of why old growth is so vital for carbon storage. We have two trees of the exact same height. This is an adult tree right here. It is full-grown as far as its height, but it is not old growth, and it is nowhere near full-grown as far as carbon storage capacity. Trees max out in height because there are a limit to how far up they can defy gravity to pump water and nutrients into their upper crown. Once they hit their max height, what they do is stack carbon. And this is very apparent. This old-growth tree is in its prime, probably around my age in human years, still healthy, strong, has centuries more to live, and stacking so much carbon. The claim that young plantations are better for the climate comes from a misunderstanding of carbon sequestration rate versus total quantity of carbon stored. While younger trees may sequester carbon at a higher rate, older trees sequester more volume thanks to their larger mass. Would you rather have 50% of $5 or 20% of $100? Plantations are currently managed on a rotation of 30 to 40 years. The typical lifespan of a Doug fir is 500 to 1,000 years. So if we're cutting down Doug firs at 30 to 40 years, we are cutting them down when they're infants, centuries away from their prime capabilities. These older trees, they're just way burlier, efficient, resilient, and you get this extremely thick bark that is very fire resistant. When your primary goal is climate resilience and watershed health, the science unequivocally shows that contiguous older forests are unparalleled, the best. We really appreciate your effort in supporting the DNR to nominate Upper Rutsatz for permanent conservation.